Hi there, your computer friend Connie here. I'm going to show you all about Microsoft Forms, which is part of Microsoft 365. It can be part of your SharePoint site or part of your Teams environment. So let's talk about what this is all about. Do you have to gather information from people within your office, maybe outside your office? You have forms that need to be filled out, questionnaires that need to be answered. Do you send this information via email to people so that they can fill it out and send it back to you? Now, how do they send it back to you? Do they send it back to you in the form that you gave it to them that then is easy for you to tabulate or export into an Excel spreadsheet? Or are you having to print stuff off because they wrote stuff and then scanned it and sent it back to you? What format is it coming to you? How are you going about managing all those answers that you had put down on that form? So we want this to be easy. We don't want to be doing this really manually. And your solution to this is using Microsoft Forms, because you will get answers to any of these questionnaires or quizzes or tests or whatever kind of form you want to make. You'll get answers from people the minute that they respond. The minute they fill it in, you can get notified. And those answers will also show up and be accumulated within the form itself so that you can actually do some stats on it or tabulate the results. So I'm going to show you what this looks like. I'm going to show you an existing form, how it looks, and how you can see the responses. And then we're going to create a new form from scratch. And I'm going to talk to you about how you can share that form with others that are inside your organization or external to your organization. It doesn't matter. But what I want to do is hopefully by the end of this show you how you don't need to send any forms anymore via a Word document or a PDF or stuff like that. Use Microsoft Forms instead. Okay, my first example is I'm just going to take a look at the Microsoft Teams assessment form that I use in my office to help me assess prospective students' knowledge of this program. So when I'm asking them for information about what they know, this is what I'm asking them. So you see the form has their name, position, and then it has a way for me to quickly find out how comfortable they are, a little bit about the challenges, and then you have this nice little grid with a bunch of questions and, are you using this? No, yes, sometimes. Okay, so this is what your form could look like with these different kinds of questions, including like the multiple choice questions. So we're gonna create this together right away, but I just want you to see what's possible. Okay, so this is one example of a form. You can have many, many forms. So now let's go back to forms, and I'm going to show you a form that has some recent results in it. So if you notice, I have a list of forms showing here. I just went to one of them. There could be other forms that were shared with me that I could be going to. I don't have any of those, so I'm not going to go there. And if I had a really long list of forms, I could actually pin the most popular ones in another area so I could get to them quickly. But let's go to one that has responses. So the Do You Need Microsoft Teams has 4 responses in it. So I'm just going to let you take a peek at this one. So this is a different form, and you see some different questions in it. But here are the responses. So let's take a look at what those look like. So it says I have 4 responses. It takes about this long for the people to answer these questions. Here are the results. And so it's giving me results really on every question that I put on the form. And so this is kind of cool because now it's saying based on the responses, how many people said yes versus no, because that's the only 2 options that they had. And so you're seeing the no is in the orange and the yes is in the blue. So it's kind of giving me a cool little diagram right at the start. Now, if I want, I can go to this little 3 dots here, and I can print out the summary. So the exact summary you're seeing on the screen here can be printed out for you. I can also create a link to the summary so that if I want to share these results with everybody that filled in the form or maybe some other people within my organization, I can make a link so then they can go look at it as well. And then the other thing that I thought is worthy of noting is that sometimes you send out a form to a group of people, and then once you've tabulated all those results from that group of people, you don't want to keep those answers forever. So if you don't want the answers forever, then delete those responses so you're back to 0 again. And then the next time you go in here, you can do a summary of that new group of people. And so it just allows you to kind of separate the responses in some meaningful way for yourself. If you don't ever want to delete, that's fine too. It's an option that you have here. Okay, so this is how it looks. This is how the responses look. And by the way, the responses will be, you have the option of having an email sent to you as the person that created the form, an email sent to you to say that there has been a response made by somebody, and it has a link in that email that will let you go straight to the form that person filled out. So that's an option, whether you want them whether you want to see that right away or not. I'll show you where that setting is in a little while. Okay, so let's go now to create a brand new form. So we're going to go to Forms on the top here. And at the very top of that list there, you see where it says New Form. We're going to click on that. Okay, so my sample form is going to be a PowerPoint assessment form. So this form will help me find out what my client knows about PowerPoint, if anything, and if they know a little bit about PowerPoint and will have very specific needs, then I can customize the training accordingly. Okay, so once I have the title and the description of my form entered in here, the Add New button will let me add in the questions. So as soon as I hit this, you're gonna see I have many choices of different types of questions I can ask. I even have some recommendations based on the other forms I've already created. So I have multiple choice, I have text, short answer, long answer, I have a rating question, a date question, and there's even some ranking, and this little table here I use that a lot in my forms as well. So I'm going to show actually most of these to you in this demonstration. So let's start with the text one. So let's say I want to know their name. Now they don't have to tell me their name if they don't want to, so I can not have it required. So that's one of your options there. Let's go on from there. And let's add another text one in there. So name and I'm going to say objective, which I guess I already had that. Objective for learning. So why do you want to learn PowerPoint, right? So that one I can say is required. I kind of need to know, why do you want to learn this? Why is that for a presentation you're doing, or what's the scoop here? Now let's add another one. This one I want to add, usually at the beginning of all my assessments, I want to be beyond the objective. I want to know, well, what's your comfort level with this program already? So that's kind of like a rating, like from, if you had to rate yourself from 1 to 10, where would your comfort level sit? And so I'm going to use this rating option here. So I'm just saying, what's your experience with PowerPoint, with 1 being little to no experience and 10 being lots of experience, or probably the most experience that you could ask for, which means you're probably not asking me to help you learn it, but just that's the rating scale. And so you see I only have stars and I have 5 levels, and we need to change that. We're going to change it from 5 to 10. And then rather than showing the stars, we're going to show the numbers. So now they can pick a number that they're comfortable with in terms of their experience level that they feel they have. And I'll say that that's a required question that I want them to fill in. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. So the next question I'm going to do is going to be that little table. So the Likert. That's how you say it. So this one lets me have a bunch of statements that they have to answer yes or no, or maybe, or seldom, or sometimes too, in terms of whether they've done something or not. Okay, so I'm going to say, well, I'll come back to the options in a minute. Let's put the statements in there. So I'm going to copy some stuff from another document, so I don't have to type this all. Okay, so the first thing I like to ask is, have you created a PowerPoint presentation from scratch? And the reason I ask that is because sometimes people just use other people's PowerPoints and they have to keep editing it. And so if they've never done it from scratch, it's kind of interesting to know. I'm just going to put a few sample questions in here. I'm not going to add the whole assessment in here right now. Have you added speaker notes to your presentation? That's another good one that tells me a little bit about their experience level. Have you added charts? Okay, and actually, sorry, I guess I don't have a question at the top here. So I'm going to say, tell me about your experience with each of the following. Okay, so now I can say, so those are the questions I'm asking them. So what could be their answers? So that's what the option columns could be about. Create a PowerPoint scratch. So that could just say, no, never You'll see why I say never in a minute. And I'll say sometimes. So maybe if you have people that, you know, sometimes they create some from scratch, other times they're using other people's presentations. And then you can say yes, always. Okay, and I don't need other options here, so I'm going to get rid of those. And so you saw how I just typed that in there. I mean, it's your call what makes sense to you in terms of your headings there, as long as the person filling it in understands what you're going for here. So this one's going to be a required question. Okay, and you see how at the top of the questions I have the ability to delete that question. I can copy that question so I can use that format for something else and then just edit it a bit. And I can also move this question up, or I can move this question down, which isn't an option right now because it is the last question. So let's take a look here. We've got, so we've got 4 questions. So let's add one more. That's a multiple choice question. I'm saying, what's your preference for training location? As soon as I put that question mark in there, it gave me suggestions as to which ones I could have for options. Thursday, Fridays. I mean, if I would have said preference for training time, that would make sense, I suppose. It's trying to help us with some possible answers. In this case, it makes no sense, but thank you for trying. So let's say it's online class or on-site. Okay, so I'm going to say online class or on-site. So with multiple choice, you could allow people to have multiple answers. In this case, that would not make sense, but you see how that could be maybe helpful in some other cases. And so we'll say that this is required as well. Now there is 3 dots here at the bottom, and that lets you actually do a couple things. You can have a drop down from this question once they answer it a certain way, and you can also add what's called branching. So based on how they answer it, it could branch off to other questions about that answer. So I'm not going to get that complicated today, but those are the options that you could start checking out further as well. Okay, so I think we're done with our quick example here. Let's take a quick preview. Yeah, so it's looking okay. Good. What does the mobile look like? Awesome. Okay, now 2 more things before you're done your form. And that is that you want to share this form with other people, and you have to decide who you want to share with. So we're going to go to the very top right-hand corner here where the 3 dots are and go to settings. And in settings, this is where you're saying, I want to share it with only people in my organization. And they can only give me 1 response at a time, by the way, or not. Or anyone can respond. So inside my organization or outside, I want responses. So that's very important that you have that filled in. It's assuming only people in your organization, which means for me, that wouldn't make any sense. I have no forms I need to fill out for people within my organization. It's all for all my customers that I want to have the forms filled out, the assessment forms, evaluation forms, and those kinds of things. Okay, then other options are you could have a time frame on it, like I want to start it, starting today, and then the end date, a certain other date. So if that makes sense for the form you're sending out, then you've got that option. And then you can shuffle the questions. So if you're doing a quiz or a test and you don't want people to say, hey, the answer for number 3 is yes, or 50, then shuffle the questions. And then, of course, the other one that maybe is worth noting here is, do you want to get email notifications? So as the person that creates the form, do you want to get notified via email every time somebody responds? So it depends on the number of people you're sending this out to and how many responses you're expecting. I'm not expecting tons and tons of responses every day, so I have this checked on. If you have thousands of people you're sending this to, then maybe you wouldn't check it on, because your responses are going to be housed with the form. It's going to be right there. And as I showed you earlier, you can download those responses into Excel as well. Okay, so that's one thing. So then the next thing to note is the sharing button. So the only way people are going to know about your form is, a couple of things. If you have it in Microsoft Teams, maybe they can see it there. But if you don't, then you want to copy this link and send it to them. And so I can say copy link. And by the way, I can shorten that link if I feel it's too long. So maybe I'll just choose that. Shorten link, copy. And then I'm going to go to a tab here and just paste it in. And so then I would just paste that link into an email and say, please fill out this form when you have time, right? and then they would get, when they open that link, this is where they're going to go. And a couple of other options you have there is to make a template for your forms so that you can use that form layout more than once for different needs that you might have. And of course, to collaborate on your forms with other people. So maybe you add some questions, that somebody else adds questions, and so on. So then everybody gets to view and edit the form together, and it's just not one person's responsibility. All right, so that's what you have. Just really quick basic information about Microsoft Forms. Hopefully this gives you enough information so that you can start using Microsoft Forms rather than sending out an email with a Word document or a PDF attached and then having to tabulate all the responses very manually when you receive them back. Okay, so try it out, check it out, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching.